So this is actually a pretty cool story in the news, and it is something that I had talked about as the whole craze of the election was going on, the post-election, where there were all these fake lawsuits being brought up about the whole big line, big steal stuff, the election steal. And it was the issue of attorney ethics and attorney rules. And it was talking about how, hey, there may be sanctions placed against Rudy Giuliani, Lynn Wood, Sidney Powell, because they're bringing up these lawsuits that have no merit whatsoever. And so judicial resources are very scarce. That's why you have to do plea deals, because there just isn't enough judicial resources for everything to go to trial. So obviously, that is something that's very important. Also, the integrity of the court is extremely important. That's why they have these kinds of rules in. And so what's really cool is it appears that these losers are actually going to get sanctioned. We saw that Rudy Giuliani, I think, lost his bar license, I think, in the state of New York, which is really cool to see. But it says, courts crack down on the Kraken lawyers. I think that that's a reference to whatever Sidney Powell. Remember Sidney dumbass Powell was saying that, oh, you know, what's going to happen is going to be biblical, the machines and all this stuff. Totally insane, completely insane. So it says things are heating up in a Michigan federal court around the big lie, with lawyers Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood facing sanctions for bringing a series of election fraud lawsuits that had no apparent basis in law or fact. So they brought 65 post-election lawsuits, 64 were lost, and then the other one was a quote-unquote win, but it actually didn't end up doing anything. It wasn't a real win of any kind. And so what's going on is they're actually going to finally, hopefully, be sanctioned by the courts. It says, on Monday, Judge Parker held a 6-hour hearing on whether Powell, Wood, and other lawyers who proffered such nonsense in court should be sanctioned. Quote, I don't think I've ever seen an affidavit that makes so many leaps, she noted about one particularly galling piece of evidence. This is really fantastical. So my question to counsel here is, how could any of you as officers of the court present this affidavit? Shockingly, counsel for the lawyers reportedly questioned Parker's objectivity during the hearing, to which the judge shot back, I would caution you to not question my procedure. You're here to answer my questions. I really don't think that route of questioning the judges, objectivity is a good idea when you're in the middle of a sanctions potential hearing. So this article says, as I explained last year, lawyers practicing in federal court are bound by Rule 11 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, which requires attorneys to certify upon signing any document filed in court or making any oral arguments based on such a document, that it is, quote, not being presented for any improper purpose, that its claims are warranted by existing law, and that the factual contentions have evidentiary support. Lawyers and their clients can be slapped with monetary fines or other sanctions for violations, including an order directing them to pay the other side's attorney's fees and costs. Rule 11 and state court equivalents are further bolstered by the American Bar Association Model Rules of Professional Conduct and other ethical standards. So this is a hilarious one too. It says, Wood and attorney Emily Newman tried to distance themselves from Powell, asserting that their respective roles were minimal. This is the typical, remember, whenever someone in the Trump camp would go to jail or something, oh, he was just the coffee guy. But here's what's hilarious. It says, Wood claimed to not even know that his name was added to the Michigan lawsuit, suggesting he merely told Powell, if she needed my help, I would help her from a trial lawyer standpoint. Powell retorted that she, quote, did specifically ask Mr. Wood for his permission to add his name and counsel for the city of Detroit. David Fink called Wood's claims blatantly false, given his concurrent statements on social media. Parker has given the parties 2 weeks to file additional papers, with lawyers for the Powell side asking for more hearings with witnesses. So it's hilarious because Powell and Wood are basically fighting each other at the end there. Wood's trying to distance himself from Powell, and Powell's like, no, you're going down with me, buddy. And I hope that he does go down with her, because they are obviously both terrible. So I'm really glad to see that they are going to be getting sanctioned, because if you don't follow the rules and carry out the rules that exist to try to maintain essentially the legal system, the judicial system, to its highest ethics, what are you going to end up having? You know, what kind of disincentive would there be to prevent this kind of thing? What would even be the point of these rules if they weren't enforced? So I'm really glad to see this. Hopefully they'll be fined, lose all of their, I want all of them to lose their law licenses so they can't practice law anymore, because they clearly showed that they're not responsible attorneys in following the rules and ethics rules and requirements of the court. So this is definitely very exciting to see, because if something like this happens, well, then you may prevent something like this in the future.